Okay, so I wanted to just provide some audio feedback on your presentation. First of all, I'd say this was a very good presentation overall. You've covered a lot of the relevant points, and you've made a really good effort with the software that we provided to you, so well done for that. Just a couple of specific comments that I would make on the content of the presentation itself. First of all, I really like the fact that you set out the different levels of the supply chain. I think that's always helpful, as I've said before, in terms of getting in your mind where the contractual route lies, and you specifically refer to the fact that the advantages of going in particular under the Consumer Protection Act is it avoids issues with privity of contract, and that privity of contract would limit the remedies that were available. You've dealt well with the Consumer Protection Act itself. You might want to mention that it's an act involving strict liability, so there's no necessity to prove fault at all. It's just that, as you say, if the products are defective, then that results in a potential remedy for the party bringing a claim for the consumer. You may also want to talk a little bit more about what that definition you set out means, so what defective actually means. So you could have talked about some of the indicative factors that we use under the Act to try and work out a defect. So what is the reasonable use of the product? Is the use to which it's been put reasonable? What's the marketed purpose of the product? And were there instructions or warnings on or with the product itself? You also might have talked a little bit more about negligence. You do cover the main points and the advantages of claiming under the Consumer Protection Act over negligence. You may have talked briefly about what you would have to show for negligence and why that does cause such a problem, and also where the retailer as opposed to the manufacturer may be negligent and the additional challenges with that. So the idea that it's only where the retailer assumes a duty of care, so where they're expected to test the product or they inspect the product in some way, they may assume a duty of care in addition to the manufacturer under the classic scenario in Donoghue and Stevenson. You do talk a little bit, or there's a final slide on defences. You may have wanted to put some narrative over that, but you do set out the main points there, so that's good to see. Also, you say obviously they will go for personal injury rather than damage to the product. You might want to talk about your reasoning for that. So I think one point you were alluding to therefore is that damage to the product itself is excluded, and that's why you might be going for personal injury in this scenario. So just relate the Act a bit more to the specific facts, but overall this is a very good presentation. Well done.